Welcome back once again, everyone, to another ranking video. In this video, I'll be ranking all of the all of the 2023 figures I got in, but these figures were released in 2022. Now, before you ask as to why I'm ranking 2022 figures in a video, after 2023, well, some of these figures bled their way into 2023 due to poor distribution or the fact that I could not find them very easily in stores. And I cherry-picked from the figures that I enjoyed the most. So if a figure like Legacy Point Blank or Skullgrin is not on this list, well, let's just say they weren't very good figures. Whereas the rest of these, are good figures, but a couple have some problems and won't be higher up when compared to the likes of Legacy Inferno or Motormaster or Robots in Disguise Scourge, who will be higher up on the list. And of course, before we get into the actual list, I am going to have an honorable mention. Honorable mentions are going to Studio Series 86 Core Class Rumble and Wheelie. Now, while either would have been included on the list due to them being core class figures, it kind of made sense that they would have to be honorable mentions. Because now, for Rumble, in this case, he is essentially the best G1 Rumble figure we're going to get. And yes, they're calling this one Rumble and the red one Frenzy because they're going for the cartoon accuracy and not so much the comics or toys. So they actively call him Rumble Blue and Frenzy Red. But the discussion is for another time. And as for Wheelie, well, as much as I don't like the character, this is a good figure of, the most annoying piece of shit Autobot. So just a brief, quick honorable mention on who was not going to make it to the list. Coming in at the number 15 spot goes to Legacy Deluxe Crankcase. Now you might be wondering as to why I picked him over Skullgrin and Point Blank. Well, simply put, he is kind of better than them, despite being a partial of skids from the first wave. Now, what he does differently is pretty obvious aside from the head, new arms, new chest piece, new weapons, and new bat kibble to make him more accurate to his original G1 toy and comic appearances. Now, Crankcase, from what I heard, was actually a happy accident and that he wasn't going to come from the skids mold. They apparently somehow had a head sculpt for Crankcase, and the designers at Hasbro were like, you know what, let's make Crankcase, and they did. Of course, this just means if he is here, they'll have to do the other trigger cons, Ruckus and Windsweeper. Now, as a figure, as a partial of skids, my copy has a tendency to, if I don't hold the chest and I move the shoulders, which I will, eventually get to reviewing him, whenever I move the arms, the chest will have an annoying tendency to hop up, but right now it's not. And initially, he wasn't going to be at the bottom spot. Someone else was going to be at the bottom spot, but I was like, you know what? Because of that QC issue, he kind of has to take the lower spot. And because I get that people don't like the skids mold, but given that Crankcase is essentially a partial in the sense that he does have skids' parts, but, he has new parts to differentiate him from said character. But to anyone looking to add a G1 Crankcase in your collection, this is probably the best we're gonna get, because unless they decide to make a new mold for Crankcase, because the one thing that they were lacking when it came to making him like his original TriggerCon toy was the obvious shoulder cannons, because for those who don't know, Crankcase's original G1 toy had the cannons come out through the back, hence the blue stripes, and they would fold up and become his shoulder cannons in robot mode. Obviously, because this is not a gimmick figure and a Generations figure, that was lost, and because of that, and him being a retool, the cannons are not blast effect compatible, and if I brought out like one of the Battlemaster blast effects or the effects from the Kingdom Titan arc, you would see that it's not blast effect compatible. But as a figure, as he stands, he's okay. He's not bad, but he could have been better. Coming in at the number 14 spot is the Stunticon Dead End. Now, as a figure, he's the best one out of, Wave 3 of Legacy, or at least from Legacy 2022. And he was the one I was sought after because Crankcase, Point Blank, and Skullgrin weren't, a priority. And I say that because Hasbro were doing the Stunticons, and were able to do them in the cartoon style of combining Menasor. Now, I will get to that when I talk about two other Stunticons who will be on the list, one who may or may not already be at the number 1 spot. But as a figure, as a deluxe, well, I would say he's hit or miss. Here's where he is good. From the head to the knees, it's the legs that fall apart. Why? Because rather than actually have a transformation with the legs and having the wheels actually go in here, like in the animation model and original toy, they're just here on the outside rather than the inside. And due to the transformation and how he combines it to Menasor, which, still doesn't make sense why this couldn't rotate in here and this couldn't become a proper foot. Because my issue, really, lies with the fact that they put all the engineering in the upper body, and that's all well and good because, most of this is accurate to how you appeared in the cartoon and original toy. But then the legs fall apart. Like, there's no proper feet. Like, the feet are just stubs from the back of the alt mode. And the wheels don't even actually transform and go into here. And they molded a fake piece indicating that the wheel would have actually went here. Now, being the only good one of Wave 3 of Legacy in regards to the deluxes, he is a good figure. But in comparison to Dragstrip, Wild Rider, and Motormaster, he kind of falls short. The only reason why he took this place and not Wild Rider, who will take the next spot, is because of how the legs were done. But the leg problems aside, I do recommend him, especially if you are completing the Stunticons and you don't want to miss out on them. Because while there is the G2 Colors Dead End, who was revealed and is out by this time, find a way to get the original. Speaking of Wild Rider, Legacy Wild Rider comes in wanting to bust something up at the number 13 spot. He beat out Dead End because while he does have a backpack that for some reason they decided to engineer to fold down, at least when it comes to these, when it comes to like where the wheels are, I do find this dumb because it serves no purpose other than giving him a bigger backpack than he already has. So if you want to, make sure that he is, like actually cartoon accurate or close enough, keep these like here. Like don't even bother to transform that because there was no need. Hasbro probably just did that because they didn't want to put the engineering into a part that actually needed it. But as a deluxe class figure, he and the other Wave 2 Deluxes were pretty much good. Like, he knocked out Alita and Tarantulas, who will be on this list, who you may have already saw at the beginning of the video. They're all really good Deluxes, especially in Generations and for Legacy. And it is unfortunate that this mold Rod Rider himself would get retooled into breakdown just so the legs can be completed, since clearly they didn't want to make a new mold for breakdown, so they had to use someone else, which didn't make any sense. But eventually, I might also do a ranking on the Stunticons as a whole once I do get breakdown, because as it stands, he and Dragstrip are the better deluxes between them as well as Dead End and Breakdown. Not to mention the weapons, combined, which, is a good gimmick. It's a good gimmick if you want to have, like, the weapons together or, separate. I don't mind this, but I also kind of like them separate. And yeah, this is a good update when it comes to this character, and they actually got the name trademark back rather than calling him Breakneck like they did back in Combiner Wars, and we will not talk about Combiner Wars because Combiner Wars was shit. Coming in at the number 12 spot is Buzzworthy Legacy Deluxe Class Silver Streak. Now, this is pretty much Blue Streak without, actually calling him Blue Streak, because for those who are unaware, Silver Streak is essentially Diaclone Colors' Blue Streak, and for a time, this color scheme was actually used for Blue Streak, and it was the other way around when, he had to be renamed Silver Streak. And many fans have wondered over the years if Blue Streak was ever released, in this blue. Obviously, that wasn't the case, because in the cartoon and original toy and comics, he was mostly silver. Of course, the real reason why Blue Streak got his name was because he was a bit of a chatterbox. Silver Streak, however, makes sense because, the silver on his hood, on his chest, would work if, parts of him elsewhere were silver, hence, Silver Streak. But as a figure, being, based on the Datsun mold, I like this. Despite being, a redeco of, Blue Streak. And of course, I can always headcanon this as an alternate version of Blue Streak rather than, having the two separate as separate characters. Obviously, headcanons are a thing, and you can have Silver Streak separate from Blue Streak, but given the connection and history of the characters, I'd rather not do that. But as a figure himself, again, he's really good, despite being a redeco. And the only reason why he beat out the other contenders, but is still low on the list, is because, he does not, fall apart, and I surprisingly have not broken him in regards to the clear plastic pieces, which is another reason why he is a bit low on the list. He's not just low on the list for being a redeco, he's also low on the list because I have heard reports that, the clear plastic on the Earthrise Datsun mold, which started with Smokescreen and then, got redecoed in Prowl and Blue Streak, retooled respectively. The clear plastic, from what I can tell, feels like it could crack and break under pressure. Which, I do hope that they revisit the Datsuns again, but I doubt that if this is the best that we're gonna get for them. So, yeah, there's Silver Streak. Coming in at spot number 11 is the Mad Doctor himself, Knockout. And yes, this is Legacy Prime Knockout. Being a heavy retool of Studio Series 86 Jazz, he's actually not bad. Now, I know that this figure was a turnoff, like Bulkhead and RC were, in regards to the Prime characters being released in Legacy and having a Generations style look to them. And I say Generations and not Generation 1 because you kind of need to separate the two, because what Generations does is update these characters in regards to making them accurate or putting a spin on them or making them stylized. And Knockout is no exception, because this design would recently be featured in the 2019 IDW comics sporting this look. Now, he is accurate in vehicle mode, since, the lights and the chest the hood of the car, the yellow colored wheels. Like, his vehicle mode is accurate, so they at least nailed that down. And the head sculpt is accurate, though I kind of wish, rather than the neutral face, he had a smirk, because Knockout was very expressive in Transformers Prime, like all the other characters were. And he does come with his staff that he used throughout the show. I do kind of wish he came with his buzzsaw and drills that he also came with in the show, since, you know, being a retool of Jazz, they put ports on the arms, and it's like, well, where's the buzzsaw? Where's his buzzsaws? Where's his drills? It's one thing if he, you know, came with a staff, because, you know, that was one of his weapons in the show, but then he used his drills and buzzsaw occasionally as his other main weapons. Like, he didn't just use the staff all the time. And the one drawback I have is that while he can hold it, and, you know, it can plug onto his arm, and that, you know, this part can split, because, you know, yeah, this can work as, like, an arm cannon, or, you know, a handheld one. But then when it comes to actually holding the staff, it's only just this, because this post does not, you know, plug in anywhere. And again, as a figure, I think he's a really good retool, though I do kind of wish he wasn't a Jazz retool, because, you know, again, the clear plastic could be prone to breaking and cracking. And my copy, you know, has loose legs. Like the tabs on the knees are a bit looser than they were on Series 86 Jazz, which the mold is based off of. And again, I do kind of wish they went with a different mold if they were going to make this into Prime Knockout. Like, because if he were to be a different mold, or he were a new mold, how would the doors go onto his arms, like in the cartoon? How would the wheels go on the back, like how they were in the cartoon? Because at least the wheels, you know, come close, because the wheels, you know, were actually in his feet. And this is, you know, close enough. But as it stands, this is a good, like, update to Knockout. It may not be fully Prime accurate, but it does come close. Coming in at spot number 10, and this is where I believe I'm getting to the good ones. This is Buzzworthy Legacy Deluxe Class Pterosaur. Now, this Pterosaur is based on his original toy colors rather than, you know, the original release of Kingdom Pterosaur that we had gotten, which was done in his more cartoon-accurate colors. Now, there was a reason why I got this figure. The original the original Kingdom Pterosaur was an Amazon exclusive, and being an Amazon exclusive, he was going to be really hard to track down and find, especially if you didn't want to have to pay an astronomical price. And I was debating on whether to put him or another character who's going to take the number 9 spot in this spot. But I gave it to Pterosaur mainly due to the weak ball-jointed feet, which, you know, causes stability when standing and posing him, as well as the weak, you know, joint in regards to the transformation, because this figure is a very heavy retool of Kingdom Air Razor from Wave 2 of that line. And unfortunately, Pterosaur being an exclusive means he's going to be the harder one of the Season 1 Beast Wars Predacons to track down. Hence why I got the Toy Colors version in case the original Amazon release of Kingdom Pterosaur was going to be hard to track down. Of course, this means he does not have the golden disc, but, you know, this really is just like the main figure without that, because Hasbro and Takara have their reasons for why they release figures a certain way. So, getting this was probably the best bet of me having Pterosaur in my collection and to complete the Season 1 Predacons regardless of color scheme, because I do kind of like the toy colors on Pterosaur, even though it means that, you know, the beak isn't yellow like how it is in the cartoon and has these green spots like on the original toy, and on the chest, which, you know, is supposed to be the tail, along with the blue-purple highlights on on the inner legs and the shins, as well as the hands. But again, if this is the best way to get Pterosaur into the collection without having to pay scalper prices for the original Kingdom version, well, I do recommend getting him in case you missed out on the Kingdom version, and you can, customize him to make him, cartoon accurate. And another thing that I will mention here and also in my review, don't lose these pieces for his arms, because what Hasbro has done for Legacy and a little bit of Kingdom is put certain pieces as well as the weapons in little plastic wrap and little paper wrappers that you can easily discard once you take out the figure from the box. But as he stands, if he can stand, I like this figure, and I do, recommend getting him in case you missed out on the Kingdom version and you need to have Pterosaur in your collection to complete the original Season 1 Beast Wars Predacons. Coming in at the number 9 spot goes to Studio Series 86, number 15, Dinobot Sludge. Now you guys might be wondering, why is Sludge number 9 on the list? Well, this right here, which I will also get into a review of him eventually. His left knee is a bit loose. His right knee, on the other hand, is also a bit loose, but it's tight enough to where it can actually support the weight. It's the left knee where I have the most problems with him. But aside from that, he is a really good figure, and this is where I believe I'm getting into my personal favorites and my best ones in regards to transformation, how he feels in hand, because being a Studio Series 86 Dinobot, he is really well done, he's really well built. The plastic is on point, he feels hefty, and obviously, fits the bill of a leader class figure, because if he was done at a shorter press point, like how the other Dinobots were in previous years, he wouldn't have worked this way. And it's a good thing that he is, because all of the Dinobots as a whole deserve to be leader class figures. And the Brontosaurus mode is, really good as well, because the head, and I will showcase that a bit here, the head does rotate, the jaw opens. I like this figure. I'm not saying I don't like this figure. Sludge is a really good figure. It's the knee problems that I have with him that made him a bit lower on the list in comparison to some of the other deluxes and Voyagers and leaders that are going to be higher up on the list. But as he stands, I do recommend getting him, because there have been a lot of him ever since he was released. And especially if you're completing the G1 Dinobots from Studio Series 86. Coming in at spot number 8 is Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class RC. Now, this figure is leaps and bounds better from the Earthrise Kingdom RC that we got a couple years prior. Now, she is a bit higher up on the list because of the fact that, well, not only is she better than the better than the War for Cybertron Kingdom and Earthrise RC we got years prior, but she feels like the old Generations RC from 2014, which was the first Generation 1 RC that we had gotten. Technically it wasn't the first, but it was the first that actually got, her design down. Now, one thing that this figure does have, and I do like, is a bit of an ab crunch, though she does kind of feel a bit loose in regards to transforming and how she can, just fall apart a bit easily due to the, ab crunch she has. But besides that, I think this is, the best G1 RC we're gonna get. Is it the best RC figure? Well, no, because there is another RC figure that's out there that people, claim to be the best. And while I agree, This is the best G1 RC because the Kingdom figure did not do it. Did not do this design justice, and yes, because she, you know, is a shell former, she doesn't have a lot of transformation, given, everything goes onto her back and nothing, on her legs or, arms. But then again, that's kind of how the character was designed and how the other Generation 1 fembots were designed, because while they were designed with alt modes, where did the alt mode parts go? Like, did they go, like, into the legs and the arms, or did they just, like, hide on the back? Which, I get that people complain about, shell formers, especially in the case of characters like RC, whose design, does not, I wouldn't say it does not translate well into toy form, because, well, it does, but at the same time, as a result of it, she's kind of a shell former. But then again, this is why the Generation Sterling 30 RC figure was the best RC figure for its time. So to see a figure based off of that, and meant to be more accurate to her appearance in G1, well, I do quite like this figure. And I do recommend getting her in case you don't have an RC, and you're completing your Generation 1 cast of characters. Taking a joint spot at number 7 is Legacy Deluxe Class Minerva and Alita 1. Now, being the same mold, they kind of had to, take a shared joint spot, but it's what they do differently in regards to, molding that they go on the list. Like, when Legacy Alita 1 was revealed, we kind of expected her to, be reused into Minerva, because she was essentially a pre-tool to Minerva. While Minerva is technically the retool, she was always the mold planned out and intended. So, the good guess as to them making Alita 1 was for her to be more cartoon accurate, because her Netflix toy during the War for Cybertron trilogy days was accurate to that version of the character. This version of Alita 1 aims to be more G1 cartoon accurate in regards to the head sculpt, the color scheme, and even the weapons as well. And speaking of the weapons, I did swap weapons between the two, because the gun, the blue gun that came with Alita 1, was essentially based on Minerva's original blaster, which she would come with painted in black. But as a result of sharing the mold, she would come with, the same copy of Alita 1's, rifle. Now, the rifle that Alita 1 comes with, and, by extension Minerva, is based on some concepts of combining Alita's G1 pistol that she had in the cartoon with, a generic rifle. So that's essentially what this is. So while Alita can get her rifles, Minerva can get her blasters, hence the swapping. And being the same mold, well, they're both good. Minerva kind of suffers in regards to release. She, like Kingdom Red Alert and Siege Ratchet and Earthrise Blue Streak, was released as a Walgreens exclusive. Why these figures are being released as Walgreens exclusives, I have no fucking clue, and I have no fucking idea, and I could give less of a shit because I have this character in my collection. And the thing that you can do differently to make sure that they are, obviously separate molds, is compress the backpack on Alita 1, which is the intention, and bring up, the actual wheels and shoulder pauldrons up to make Minerva more accurate to her appearance in the Super God Master Force and Victory animes. And again, as figures, these two are, really good, despite, sharing the same mold. And of course, that's probably the reason why they beat out RC and some of the other characters mentioned in this list. And I do recommend getting both of them for, a lot of different reasons, especially since, unfortunately, Minerva is not a headmaster anymore, But then this makes her kind of accurate to her appearance in Victory because, her not being a headmaster anymore means, they allowed this figure to be, the best that it could be. And for Alita, she's just good. I know people have problems with, this mold, especially since it would, reveal to be retooled into Robots in Disguise 15 Strong Arm. But as it stands, being the first releases of the mold, they continue to be top tier. Coming in at the number 6 spot goes to Legacy Deluxe Tarantulas. I have been after this figure since his announcement, his reveal, and release, and I never fucking found him until December 2023, when Walmart were reissuing some of the previous Legacy Deluxes, as well as Studio Series Deluxes. And I forgot to mention this in the Alita segment of this ranking video. He came packaged with Alita 1 in one of those Walmart 2-packs, and Knockout and Wild Rider also got the same treatment, in addition to some of the other deluxes that are probably still out on store shelves. And to anyone who missed out on these figures, well, I think Walmart was listening to the fans who missed out on these figures due to their poor distribution and, Hasbro and, their bullshit sales. But enough of that. This is a really good figure and a really good update on the character that we saw in Beast Wars, and this is, based on his Season 1 form. There is something that is taken from his Transmetal form, and that is this buzzsaw weapon that would take the place of his original, launcher that he had in Season 1. And this, I believe, was one of the wheels of his, third bike mode that he got from his Transmetal form. And I'm pretty sure, but don't quote me on this, that the legs are also Blast Effect compatible. And if the legs are Blast Effect compatible, which I should try out at some point, to recreate the fact that, he can use his legs as, machine guns, which was seen throughout the cartoon. And as he stands, he is a really well done deluxe class figure, and we all thought he would be a retool of Kingdom Black Arachnia or Kingdom Scorponok due to certain similarities with their designs, but nope, he is an entirely new mold, and there probably would have been no way for Tarantulas to have been a retool of either Black Arachnia or Scorponok without some compromises. And Tarantulas really does take the cake, because I believe this is where all the budget in regards to the deluxes of Wave 2 went, because Tarantulas is that damn fucking good. Like, seriously. I recommend getting him, especially if you're trying to complete the original cast of Beast Wars, and, this is a figure you want. I am holding out hope that they do his Transmetal form, since they gave us this. But as his original form from Season 1, and, original toy is concerned, this is it. This is, the definitive take on Beast Wars Tarantulas in mainline form. Coming in at the number 5 spot goes to Legacy Voyager quote-unquote Prime Universe Bulkhead. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Why is Bulkhead number 5 on the list? Well, simply put, as one of the new franchise characters introduced since animated, and I say animated because that's technically where the, color scheme and design of the character originated from. Now, while the character existed in Energon, we don't talk about Energon. I like to see this Bulkhead as a hybrid of Transformers Animated and Transformers Prime, because he's not the SUV, I think, monster truck mode that he had in Transformers Prime. He's more so like the animated character in regards to him being more of a armored military truck in regards to, like, the obvious truck mode front, the wheels. Obviously, he's not one-to-one with Prime or animated, and is more so essentially based on the IDW Bulkhead. I just think they labeled him as Prime Bulkhead, given the head design, the color scheme, and the fact that, they were introducing Transformers Prime into Legacy. Now, as a figure, he's a really well done figure, because I know a lot of Transformers Prime fans were turned off by the fact that he does not look like Prime Bulkhead, and I know some animated fans, probably don't like how he's not animated accurate. Again, I see this as a hybrid of Prime and animated in regards to alt mode, weapons, and all that. And he poses really well. He feels good. He feels like, a good Voyager. And I did, do this with the Wrecking Ball by putting it on his left hand rather than his right, because when it comes to the right hand, you have to do it a certain way. And given that, this shield that, can be placed on his back, I decided to put on here, just for the sake of showing him off in this video, along with, the shoulder cannon, which can be mounted on forearms or held in the hand. And again, he's a really well done figure, and I get that, some fans, especially those fans of Prime, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at some of y'all, I know some of y'all are Prime fans watching, and yes, he does not, like aside from the head, the rest of him does not look the part, but again, as a figure, and an update of the character, he is really good. And people have made the comparison on, him looking a bit like Bay vs. Hound in regards to the alt mode. Well, the reality is, Bay vs. Hound should have been Bulkhead from the start, and I will stand by that argument that Hound should not have been in the Bayverse. Again, I can praise this figure because, he feels good, he looks good, despite his blocky chest, and the fact that, it is just a block and it doesn't, actually do anything, but the rest of, him does. And I like his transformation, I like the weapons. One thing they did keep from Prime, however, is, the placement of the wheels on the back, and that's pretty much it. Because again, this Bulkhead is kind of designed to fit in any universe. He can fit in G1, he can fit in animated, he can fit in Prime. Shoot, he could even fit in the Unicron trilogy if you want to feel bold. So, yeah. This may have been a controversial pick, but, again, people are very opinionated. I'm not that opinionated. I just like what I like. If I don't like it, then I don't like it. But, yeah. That's Legacy Bulkhead. Coming in at the number 4 spot, and this is where I get into, me probably losing my shit. Taking the number 4 spot is Legacy Velocitron Speedy 500 Collection, Leader Class, Robots in Disguise 2000, Scourge. I love this goddamn fucking figure. And I'm going to swear a lot in my videos, but I've already sworn on my channel before, so, Now, he is a little more Nemesis Prime in regards to the colors, but he is still mostly accurate to his appearance as Scourge in 2001's Robots in Disguise, or if you want to get Japanese accurate, Black Convoy from Car Robots, because initially, Scourge was going to be called by his Japanese name of Black Convoy, since, he was technically a separate character from the Generation 1 Scourge, and, just holds onto the name trademark. But it's because of that, Robots in Disguise Scourge has kind of become the second famous version of the character, not because of the name, but because, he's essentially an evil Optimus Prime. Like, he's not a copy of the Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime, he's a redeco of the G2 Laser Optimus Prime from, the Generation 2 toy line in 1995, so when Legacy did an updated figure on the Laser Optimus Prime from G2 in Legacy, it was no surprise that, fans, myself included, were going to be clamoring for Robots in Disguise Scourge. And as an update, it's a really good update. Now, if I was a customizer, I would paint, some of the obvious details, and, maybe if Toy Hacks or, a third-party company has put out some stickers or, something to make him more Robots in Disguise accurate, and, changing the color of the chest, and, taking away some of the more Nemesis Prime, esque details. But as a standalone figure, he's really good. It is a shame that he is an exclusive, and people that are fans of 2001's Robots in Disguise would want this figure in their collection, especially if they missed out on him. And I do hope that he does get a re-release at some point in the future, because if I'm going to be honest, he should have been made first, so G2 Laser Optimus can come second, because not a lot of people are probably going to care for G2 Laser Prime, and they're likely going to care for someone like Scourge or, say, Toxitron, who are arguably the better uses of the mold. Like, I'm not saying Laser Optimus Prime, color scheme wise or, figure wise was bad. I'm just saying Scourge and Toxitron wear the mold better, especially in regards to color scheme. But yeah, he comes with, the sword based on his original toy that he used in the cartoon. He does come with this blaster turret that, plugs onto the actual tanker, truck. Well, not the truck, because, Scourge himself is the cab, and, the trailer is a tanker. In addition to, the axe that combines with the sword that I'm leaving off at the side. My only gripe with the figure, that's not a big deal, is that I kind of wish the turret on, like, the whole battle station mode of the trailer did not have to come apart and, plug into the hand, because it is a bit of a loose connection. And I do wish he came with his actual blaster that he used in the show and had on the original toy, because the thing with the original toy was that the turret was, a turret, and that he actually came with a separate blaster. But I guess they must not have had the budget to give him a proper blaster. But as he stands, and as a figure, I do recommend getting Robots in Disguise Scourge for anyone who's a fan of the series. And, you can call him Black Convoy or you can call him Nemesis Prime. But, this is Scourge. This is where I'm really going to lose my shit with these top three. Coming in at the number three spot is Legacy Voyager class Armada Starscream. I really love this figure. I know some people find it a decent figure or an okay figure. I find this figure to be peak. Why? Because it's Armada Starscream. Say what you want about the Armada cartoon, say what you want about the character. I love the character, I love Armada, and I'm glad that Armada is getting, updated figures of the characters that appeared in the show and original toy line. So what better way than to introduce Armada into Legacy than through Armada Starscream, who is not a pre-tool or a retool of any existing mold. He's a new mold from the ground up, accurate to his appearance in the Armada cartoon. And while he does not come with his Minicon Swindle, which is a drawback, being a Generations figure means that he does not need Swindle to activate his shoulder cannons, which, if I had blast effects on me right now, which I could pull out at any time, I would show off that, because, again, if they released Swindle separately as like a core class or something and made him compatible with Starscream, he wouldn't affect, the gimmick, because they took away the gimmick in order to get the screen accuracy down to a T, which I appreciate them doing. And obviously, you can compress the cannons by folding up this back piece onto the back like so that they're out of the way and that they're not always on his shoulders like they are in the series and like the original toy. One thing that he does kind of take away in regards to what was seen in the show is the wings. The wings do not, in regards to the left wing, because it was really the left wing that became his, sword that he was seen using throughout the cartoon. While I wish it was red and not, gray, since, he does have red on the wings, I do kind of wish, at least the blade itself was red to contrast with the fact that it is the wing itself and not like a separate piece. Though I guess this is also technically accurate to the Armada video game where Starscream just had the sword separate from his wing. And he does come with a miniature version of the Star Saber, because we likely were not going to get runway, sonar, and jetstorm to form the Star Saber, and if we ever got them, they would have to be like big, and the Star Saber wouldn't scale well. But the Star Saber is kind of puny in comparison, so maybe a bigger Star Saber would be better, since they kind of diminished it. They diminished the size to make it look like an actual sword. Though I guess the sword can go with Legacy Armada Hotshot, who would also eventually be revealed and released, probably by the time I'm doing this. But as he stands, I really like this figure. I love the character, and Starscream being one of my favorite characters, not just from Armada, but in general. Yeah, I really cannot recommend him enough, especially since he has been shell forming recently, ever since I got him. Like, he's been shell forming a bit more than the character who's gonna take the spot above him. Because the royalty commands that he takes the number 2 spot, I have to give it to Legacy Beast Wars Inferno. Why? Because for the glory of the royalty. I love this figure. Like, let me start with this. His mouth opens. This alone. Oh, and he has light piping for his red eyes. If I had a flashlight, I would show you. But the eyes are still painted regardless. But again, his mouth opens. And that is a good thing. And if not for the figure that would be taking number 1 spot, he would have been my number 1. I love the transformation. I love posing him. I love his articulation. I love the fact that they made his mouth open, because as many of you guys are aware, especially if anyone is a Beast Wars fan that is watching, Inferno was perhaps one of the most expressive characters in the Beast Wars cartoon. Like, every time this Predacon Pyromaniac Fire Ant was on screen, he would either be screaming, laughing, or shouting out something quirky. Like, Inferno was just a fun character to see in the show, and it was a shame he kind of had to die in the finale. One drawback that he does have in regards to the figure, and as an update to his original figure, and accurate to his appearance in the cartoon, is his blaster being ripped off of his actual thruster. Because as many of you are aware, Inferno's flamethrower cannons in the Beast Wars cartoon were not this, but they were a different, distinct mold. I'm guessing Hasbro put all their budget into making this open and rotate, and I do like how this rotates. Like, I do like how, this whole back section of the ant mode that goes onto his back, opens and rotates. Like, I really love this. Like, I love this. Though I'm guessing due to the budget, they couldn't, give him his actual flamethrowers, since I'm pretty sure all that went into making him have an opening jaw, which, again, I still love it. I'm not saying I don't. But as a result of that, you kind of have to rip off the thruster just to give him a blaster. It's a drawback, but, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It would have it would be a bigger deal if he had a different molded blaster, so this could stay on the back, or you could rip it off, and he would have to, because Inferno, if I'm not mistaken, did have two of the same weapon in the Beast Wars cartoon. But as he stands, I think he is by far the one of the best updates for the Beast Wars characters. Like, Inferno is up there with the likes of Kingdom Optimus Primal, Kingdom Beast Megatron, Tarantulas, who I put on the list for, good reason, and good reason Tarantulas was high up on the list, but, he was not beating Inferno. While some of the other Beast Wars characters who have gotten updates were not so well received, like Scorponok or Kingdom Rhinox or Kingdom Waspinator, but those figures were just okay. We likely are not going to get updates of them anytime soon, so as it stands, we have essentially the completed Season 1 cast of Beast Wars. So now it's a matter of time until we get the other characters, because we have gotten Transmetal 2 Megatron, who, was Megatron's upgraded form in Season 3. And we're likely going to get some other characters down the line, hopefully, like Silverbolt, Quick Strike, Depth Charge, and Rampage, just to have, the whole cast of Beast Wars complete. And maybe some of the one-off characters, because we did get Transmutate in Generation Selects, as well as, Ravage from the Season 2 finale episode, The Agenda. But enough geeking aside. Get him. Is anyone really surprised? Is anyone really surprised that the number one spot on this ranking videos of figures I got in 2023 but were released in 2022 goes to Legacy Commander Class Motormaster? I love this figure. If not for him, Inferno from Beast Wars Inferno from Legacy would have taken the number one spot. But because I finally got my hands on this figure and finally have the main body and torso of Menasor, he's number one. He took the number one spot. And I have been after him since he, was eventually released. Obviously, finding him in stores was going to be damn near impossible. So eventually, I had to look online somewhere and pull the trigger on him. It was not easy, but I was able to find him for a semi-good price just to get him. And because given inflation nowadays, getting and looking for a figure without paying astronomical prices is damn near impossible. But, little ranting aside, I really love this figure. Obviously, there was no way Motormaster himself would have been all of this trailer into this Voyager class size robot, because Motormaster himself is just the cab now. Since, there has to be a way for him to, be a Voyager class size robot to stand against Optimus Prime and, stand head tall with Megatron without compromises. The compromise was that if he's going to be just the cab, then that means the rest of the trailer has to turn into a battle station, which, it does, and it's very reminiscent of a certain Autobot by the name of Thunderclash, who also had a trailer that turned into a battle station. But the trailer essentially houses the components to put Menasor together, because once you get, the Stunticons, all you have to do is just slap them onto, the armor pieces. And for Motormaster himself, he houses Menasor's head and essentially becomes the main torso. Obviously, this right here is the actual chest piece, but Motormaster himself essentially becomes the torso, and the rest of these become the arms, the legs, and, the connector bits for, the pieces to latch onto, and, because the trailer and Motormaster himself is basically just like the skeleton of Menasor. Like without the Stunticons attached, like the other Stunticons that formed the limbs, Motormaster and, his trailer is basically just Menassor's skeleton. And I know some people don't like, Menasor in regards to him being a combiner, since, he's basically just Motormaster with the other members slapped on as limbs. But there are some animation moments where, the actual Stunticons are the limbs and not so much like armor pieces. Because while Menasor does not feel like an actual combiner, and the Stunticons work individually, because that's what I do like, talking about Motormaster himself, because I have a tendency to go off topic, he poses well, I love his articulation, though him being a commander class is like, okay, why doesn't he have opening hands? He may not have been very expressive, but at least giving him opening hands and not just, the closed fist would have aided him. The sword is a bit big for him, but because of that, it's a bit small for Menasor. And due to, how the trailer works, he doesn't come with his accurate blaster, but instead, a double-barreled cannon that, is part of the trailer and becomes part of the battle station. And obviously, he can hold it if you're not doing the whole battle station and you just want Motormaster to have firepower, which, again, he does not come with, his actual cannon that was seen in the cartoon, comic, and original toy, but this is close enough. For some reason, he has ports on the sword. I don't know what they're for, but it kind of just stores into the trailer. And yeah, as he stands, I really love this figure. And he does have some clever tricks, like how the feet are essentially the fake front of the truck mode in regards to the wheels, because the actual wheels are on the back. And this does kind of give the illusion that they are the actual trailer wheels. So if anyone who's a stop motion animator can actually make it seem like all of this is turning into this, well, I would give you props for that. But as a figure and as he stands, I really love Motormaster, and I do recommend getting him, regardless of the price that you have to pay. But if the price you have to pay is just to complete Menasor and to have a really good figure, despite, him being a Voyager and coming with a lot of shit, packaged as a commander, him being essentially the core component of Menasor meant that he had to be a commander. And I will say this before I close out the video: this is so much better than the piece of shit brick that was Combiner Wars Motormaster. Combiner Wars Motormaster was a piece of shit brick that did not need to happen, but it was Combiner Wars, and we moved past that. This is peak. And that's a wrap. There you have it, guys. That is my ranking for every single Legacy and Studio Series 86 figure I got in 2023, but were released initially in 2022. Again, Hasbro's distribution has continued to screw us over, so some figures that were released in 2023 were actually 2022 releases that, due to poor distribution, poor sales, and poor stock, bled their way into 2023. Or if they were hard to find figures like Tarantulas or Bulkhead, depending on, where you lived and what your stores had in stock, well, that's what it all depends and boils down to: stock, distribution, and how many figures in that wave, end up actually getting released and put out on shelves. But with that aside, I want to thank everyone who did tune in and continues to tune in for my channel for, whatever random content I decide to put out like this. So for those who, did enjoy, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on my social medias. I have Instagram, I have a Discord, both an account and a server. Feel free to join. If I can, if I do send the links, they will be either in the comment section or the description below. And with that, I will see you all in the next one.